Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. My name is Chris Haynes. I'm a professional services engineer for DocuWare. Today we're going to be going over DocuWare user management techniques and best practices. As your organization grows, you're eventually going to want to add new users. The new users will need licenses to be able to log into DocuWare. You can purchase extra named licenses directly from your DocuWare partner. After you've purchased additional named user licenses, you can obtain the updated license file through either your DocuWare partner, who you made the purchase from, or by registering as a user account at docuware.com. Once you have your updated DocuWare license file, you're going to want to copy that over to the DocuWare server. Next, I'm going to demonstrate how to apply the updated license file to your DocuWare system. We need to navigate to the DocuWare server and open the DocuWare administration tool. There are multiple ways to navigate to the administration tool. I like to use the Windows search and type in DocuWare administration. You can either click on the highlighted icon or hit enter. From here, you're going to want to enter the DocuWare organizational administrator username and password if you have it available. The tool does populate the last username that was used to previously log into the tool. Go ahead and log in. Okay. Now that we're logged in, we can apply the license file. Underneath our organization, expand out the general node, click on licenses. Here you'll get an overview of your current license, your server version, any concurrent licenses you may have, your named user licenses, and your module licenses. To apply the updated license file, you want to right-click on licenses and click on Install New License File. Hit Yes at the prompt. You're going to navigate to the location where you copied your new license file over to. You select the license file, and then you click Open. That will populate the new named user licenses in your administration tool here. To apply the license to a user, you select one of your empty licenses and you click on the drop-down arrow. This will bring up a select list of all your current users in DocuWare. I go ahead and select winner and click apply. Now our winner user can log into DocuWare. As you can see, applying a license is a pretty straightforward process. Couple small tips. If you click on your organization and move up to the connections overview, click on that, select license, you'll see our license type is broken down by user license. In this screen here, we can see who's currently logged into DocuWare and what network ID the machine is that they're currently logged into. This is pretty useful to see how many people are logged in at DocuWare at one time, or if somebody logged off, you can see if their license is currently still in use. You do have to hit the refresh button. It doesn't refresh automatically. Also, there's a 2-minute timer that's triggered when you log out of the DocuWare web client. Once that 2-minute timer is up, the user license will be released, so it can be used by either another user if it's a concurrent license, or that same user will be able to log into a different machine or a different browser. Next, we're going to go over adding new users in DocuWare. This can be accomplished via the DocuWare Web Client Configurations page or the Administration tool. For our demo today, we're going to be using the Configurations page. You can assign out all rights either individually or simply assigning the user to a group in DocuWare. Once the user is created, if there's a free named license available, the user will automatically be assigned to it. You can navigate to support.docuware.com and search for KBA-34935 for help documentation on how to create users in DocuWare. Moving on to the demonstration. First, want to log into the DocuWare web client with the organizational administrator account if possible. Go ahead and open up a web browser. And once logged in, we're going to click on the drop-down arrow next to our DocuWare username. And then we're going to click on the gear wheel labeled Configurations. Under the General row, we're going to click on the User Management plugin. Once in the User Management screen, see we have an overview of our current users in DocuWare, any roles we may have created, groups, and our function profiles. Go ahead and we're going to click on the yellow icon labeled New User. First, we're going to want to name our user. This name is going to be the login that they use to log into the web client. I like to use the first letter of their first name followed by their full last name. For example, C. Haynes. We go ahead under name and registration, fill in their first name, their last name, and the email address. The email address is a required field. You cannot add a new user in DocuWare without that email address filled in. From here, we have two options for registration. We can use the default, which is request user by email to activate account and set password. In most scenarios, you're going to use this option, or you can manually set the password for the user. Now you need to set their document tray parameters. You can change the name. You can alter the color. And then you have to assign out a file cabinet. The file cabinet chosen here will be the file cabinet that's used with automatic store option that's available in the document tray. Small tip, you do want to choose a file cabinet that your user will be primarily storing to versus other file cabinets. Click on more options here. You'll see the two rows where you can enter a user ID and a network ID. The user ID is how the username is displayed on the back end of DocuWare, and the network ID is what enables the DocuWare user account to use Windows authentication to be able to log into the web client. So everything's set on this screen, hit save. You can see the registration email has been sent. We click on our Groups tab. We can assign the user directly to a group if there's one available. We click on the Roles tab. We can do the same thing. You can individually assign out roles. We click on our Functions Profile tab. You can assign either a pre-configured functions profile, or you can check this checkbox to assign functions directly to the user. You click on the File Cabinet Profiles. Here we can assign out the standard profiles that are created with each file cabinet. We can assign out any custom profiles that were created, or any index value profiles. And click on our Dialogues tab. As you can see, we can assign out individual search dialogues, individual store dialogues, our result lists, our test lists, and any folders. And if we click on our Stamps tab, we can individually assign out stamps. Again, if you made any changes going through your groups through your stamps, click Save. Now, as you can see, assigning out the individual rights can be a pretty tedious procedure, which leads us to our next topic of discussion, a more in-depth explanation of groups, roles, file cabinet profiles, function profiles, and dialogues, and how we can efficiently tie them all together. If possible, you should have a DocuWare group for every department in your organization that'll utilize DocuWare. Your DocuWare users will be directly assigned to a group. That group is then assigned to a role, and roles are where all your user rights assignments will be tied to. Utilizing groups and roles will streamline your user creation process. Another thing that you want to be aware of is that rights are additive in DocuWare. Let's go ahead and get into an example. Okay, we're going to want to log into the DocuWare web client. Always use the organizational administrator account if you have it available. We're going to bring up the configurations page. And then click on the user management plugin. And we're going to click on the groups tab. We're going to create a new group. I like to name groups after the department that they're going to be tied to. In our case, we'll use PS Engineer base users. Click on the Users tab, and here you're going to select what users are going to be a part of that group. We'll do C. Haynes and Winner. Save the group once you've added your users. Hit the back button. Once the group's created, now we want to create our role. I'm going to click on our Roles tab. I'm going to click the new role. I like to name our role after the group that it's going to be tied to. As you can see, we have 4 tabs here. We can assign out a function profile directly to the role. We can assign out our file cabinet profiles, our dialogues, and assign out our users and groups to the role. For now, we're going to skip over the function profiles and move directly on to the file cabinet profiles. Click on the File Cabinet Profiles tab. And you'll see we have our three categories: standard profiles, custom profiles, and the index value profiles. For our demonstration, we're going to use the standard profiles that are assigned to a file cabinet when it's created: our read, owner, edit, and delete. I'm going to select the edit profile, which will automatically select the read profile. To have edit rights, it's dependent on our read profile. That's why it automatically selects it. These two profiles together will allow us to search, store, and edit index data in this particular file cabinet. We will not have rights to delete documents. Next, we want to click on our Dialogues tab and click on Search. We want our basic search dialog, so we'll check off Search. We're going to have access to the basic store dialog. We'll click on Store. And our Result List tab. We need to make sure that we assign out a result list that's tied to the search dialog that we selected in the previous menu. If you skip this part, then when a user assigned to the group tied to this role does a search in Docuware, no results will appear as they won't have access to the result list. Go ahead and click on our result list. Now we're done with our dialogues. We move on to assigning out the users and groups. Again, we want to tie our role directly to our group. So go ahead and click Groups. Select the PS Engineer Base Users group, and then click Save. And click on Back. Last, we want to configure a function profile to assign to our new role. Function profiles contain configuration rights and access to stamps. Let's go ahead and click on the New Functions Profile button. We want to label the function profile after our role. Select any individual functions that we want assigned to the profile. Click on our Stamps tab. Select any stamps we want these users to have access to. And then click on our Users and Roles tab. Here we're going to assign the function profile directly to our role. Go ahead, click Save. And that's it. Now that we've streamlined our user rights, the next time a new PS engineer is added to Docuware, all we need to do is add them to the PS engineer base users group. This way of organizing user rights is really essential in medium to large organizations. It just streamlines the entire user creation process. Let's close out of the web client. A great way to see what individual rights are assigned to a specific Docuware user is to use the Docuware administration tool. Let's go ahead and log in. Okay, underneath your organization, you want to expand out the user administration node, expand out your users node. and then select the user whose rights you want to view. In our case, C. Haynes. If you right-click on that user and select Show User Rights, you'll get a complete breakdown of every individual right that this user has. So if you click on our file cabinet rights, it'll show you the rights that it's assigned to for document pool. You can see the dialogues that it's assigned to. You can see any general rights in the file cabinet that they have. Also, if you scroll up to general rights, you can see the rights that they have in DocuWare. So configuring text recognition, configuring auto index. Below, you can see what profile roles and groups the user is assigned to. Now, this screen is particularly useful for troubleshooting why a user has rights to certain things that maybe you think they shouldn't have access to. And let's get out of here. And last for today, we're going to go over how to create a new file cabinet in DocuWare. It's a pretty simple process that's not as in-depth as our user rights. During the creation of our file cabinet, we name it, create the proper fields, choosing the corresponding field types, and assigned out permissions. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Again, we want to sign into the DocuWare web client with the organizational administrator or any user that has configuration rights for creating file cabinets. I want to go to the configurations page. Then we're going to scroll down to the row labeled document storage and select the file cabinet plugin. Before we get into creating a new file cabinet, I want to show you a pretty useful feature. You scroll over to our down arrow here, you'll see we can export this particular file cabinet settings to an XML file. What that does is it'll export out all the index data field, all the file cabinet profiles you may have configured, all their dialogues, any task lists. And once that XML is on your PC, if you look over here to this down arrow, this import, if you click this and select the XML you just exported, you can create an exact copy of that file cabinet. It's really useful for troubleshooting when you don't want to disturb the live environment. Okay. Let's go ahead and click on the yellow button labeled New File Cabinet. Here we're going to name our file cabinet. You can add a description. You can choose from the available colors. And you can also enable and disable full text. In my opinion, I really recommend you leave this option enabled, as it's a great feature for finding documents that may have been stored with incorrect field data. Go ahead, click on the next button. Here you'll see this is where we enter our fields. You will have a whole bunch of pre-populated fields. If you don't want to use these, you can highlight it, select the minus button, and it'll delete it. When you're naming your fields, I like to use naming conventions that are in line with the document types that'll be stored here. Now, if you hit the plus button, you can add a new field. First, you name it, and then you choose the type of field. Text is going to be our most commonly used field. Our numeric field type is for storing numeric values. Our memo field is very useful for comment fields, for example. It allows you to type in a paragraph of information. Our date field type, it's our date. Our keyword field is a pretty useful field type for storing multiple lines of data. For example, if you're going to store an invoice that has 10 check numbers, instead of having 10 different check number fields in Docuware, you can create a single check number keyword field to store all 10 of those values as line items. And we have our decimal field, which is useful for storing invoice amounts, for example. And then our date time field. The date time field just builds on the date field by showing you the time. Go ahead and click next. Now here's where we assign our permissions. So we'll click our plus button. You always want to assign your roles. We're going to use our PS Engineer base users role. Click OK. And as you can see here, our 4 standard file cabinet profiles: owner, read, edit, delete. Go ahead and give them edit rights and click finish. That's it. Now the file cabinet is going to be created on the back end, and your users will have access to it through the role. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for today. In closing, I'd really like anyone who's interested in learning more about Docuware to visit support.docuware.com. It's really a great resource of information from our knowledge base to our community-based forums. Have a great morning, everybody, and stay safe.